back out here at the firewood mill today. Going to do some repairs on it, a couple of modifications. If you haven't seen it running, go back and watch one of those videos just to see what the problem that we're having. But to give you a catch up, every time we'd cut a block off the chute, that chute tips, it goes down into the splitter hopper down there, and every second block was going sideways or going way too fast and going under the what I call I-beam over the other side. Anyway, so we've added this flap here which slows down most of the blocks. The smaller ones were sort of are still going through a little bit too fast, but I've got an idea to slow that up. I didn't want to go any lower than what that is at the moment because I just didn't want to start catching all the sawdust and debris and keeping it in there, because that'll stop the smooth transition as well. But I'll climb down here and just show you what we're going to be working on today. You saw the last video, we had it had the splitter set up, had it pushed through. Well, this is upside down obviously, but that plate was nice and level. It was all new. There was an extra fin there, and that's sat on top of the first box wedge that's pretty much the same. But the problem we had was I resealed the hydraulic rams, which gave it a lot more power, and it was pushing blocks through sideways, and if you really weren't on the ball, it was just catching blocks and knotty blocks. And that main plate there is 1 inch, and it just bent it. Once it bent it up, like I said, that's upside down, but once it bent that up, it was forcing blocks in, and it just made a mess. Popped that whole plate. I think at one stage the only thing that was holding it was that and that. And yeah, the same thing happened with the original splitter that we took off. It didn't have enough reinforcement to my way of thinking, so that's why we built the lower profile, and it angled back much the same as I'll show you the original on the machine that's still there shortly. But it angled back and it was all working well, but once I resealed those rams, it was just too much power to be working as that. So I'll show you what we've got now. So this is the original box. You can see wings all the way across. They fan out, and from the front to the back I think there's a 2-inch rise, so the block doesn't jam up in there. There's obviously been, that's not all us welding those on, some of them are, some of them aren't. There's been modifications and whatnot over the years, but by the looks of it, the one thing that's stayed constant is that plate. Just judging by the welds and whatnot on here, they've tried every sort of means to get this working, but I'd say, guessing, that it would have been originally a box wedge splitter with a return arm. We did try that with the bit of 75mm square and 4mm section, and that worked fine until we had it probably that high off the bottom, and a few blocks were coming down and landing on an angle like that, and as the arm came back it had lifted up. So to combat that, I'm going to have the arm come back further. The blocks will still be the right length. Cut it all out at like 16-inch maximum length. 14 is regular, so the block should fall back easier. I'm going to clean all these up so they don't drag, less likely to fall and sort of want to tip. And yeah, just going to reinforce it. A couple of gussets on here where it catches, gussets here so it doesn't catch and lift it. We're going to have some rod go from there to the other end of the arm. I didn't have that, I just had it as an L shape, and that's the first thing it did. A block got caught in here somehow and it bent that up, so that was a pretty quick destruction there. And then the next thing that we've got to work on is we've got to put a flap here to stop all the debris just going underneath the conveyor, because it makes a right mess and jams up stuff goes in here. I've already had a couple of, see if I can spot it along here. Yeah, a couple of repairs. Just things catching and ripping the belt. It's obviously an old belt. I'm not up to repairing that, replacing that yet, but yeah, it's caught it and ripped it a few times. So if I can stop the debris piling up under here, that'll be most helpful. Even if I just put something under there that I can drag out every now and again, but the main thing is to have it go up through this grizzly plate. I've got to have a piece of mesh, tin, come back this way so it drops down here, because around about there is where I park the truck. So as soon as we added that flap, and when I had this return arm working here, it shaved an hour off a load, which is significant. That's just with one person operating it, and so it took just over 3 hours to fill a bogey truck by myself, and it would have been approximately 14 cubic meters. That was me loading and moving the truck and everything by myself, so you could take a lot of time off that with a second person. Pretty much now what we're trying to do is just stop ever having to, or not ever, but at least halve the amount of times that you've got to fix blocks up in here, because every time you do that, there's another function that's not being used, and it slows you down, especially when you're working by yourself, and you know, there's a lot of other things that got to be done, blocking logs and whatnot. So the next, if this all works and we can keep it working properly, constantly I should say, these will be getting changed over to 2 joysticks, possibly with a electric toggle switch. Until then, I've got to fix a couple of leaks, like simple little things, but for now it's still working. It's just leaking out the control valve. I think the splitter valve might be leaking as well. I'll have to fix that. I probably won't rush into fixing all this yet, because they're very time consuming to pull these valves apart, split them and reseal them. And if I'm going to go to joystick, well, that'll sort of be a waste of time. But anyway, I'll just waiting on the welder to get here now, and once he arrives, we'll put this arm on and get it going again. Well, a bit like magic, we're done there. Added this on, bracing down here. I just got to adjust the auto return because it's coming back a little bit too far. Where that's sitting there is perfect, and added the flap to send more up the elevator and less under here. So I'm about to run a load through it now and see how she goes. I was about to start filming how well it was working. Everything's good. All the modifications are still going. I've only done about 3 blocks, as you can see in there. Pushed one through, and it's become apparent that the expansion spring that I disconnected is too heavy, because it's snapped the splitter valve handle. So it looks like it's been an ongoing issue before, but anyway, that put the hold on today, so I'll get that fixed up and hopefully get a video of it all running smoothly. Before I wrap the video up, I just want to show how much of a prick of a spot that valve's in to get to. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see if I can turn into a contortionist and get this valve out.